5:30.
Anyways, I'd like to acknowledge that we're on the traditional rights working place. You have an agenda in front of you. I would also like to add a more set of minutes. April 25th, I think you all have a copy on your desk. Do they? Oh, the 19th. So, can I add that on to your, you guys, you know, the approving. Okay.
Done.
Okay, so then the council minutes of the 11th, and then kind of move to adopt those.
Yes,
Any discussion? Favor? Would you like to speak to this, William, at all?
Certainly, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the Mayor. The hearing minutes are up for adoption from the bylaw 1238 on April 19th. And also because we don't really have anywhere else to put it on the agenda, we have put the zoning amendment bylaw there for third reading and adoption. Following the public hearing, zoning bylaws can be third and adopted in the same meeting if they agree with OCP. So the minutes are to adopt and the bylaw for third and adoption.
You'd like them as two separate?
Yes, please.
Can I have a motion to adopt this public hearing?
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, then there's 1238-22. You given third and adoption?
I'll move that.
I'll second.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, council reports. We'll go over to this side and do it quickly.
Yeah, side, yeah. Just one thing, worship, just on Wednesday, was at the Councilor Laws, they have this coming week have a attraction retention meeting, so.
On the 12th, I had a Charge to the North update to communities that I took part in. On the 13th and the 20th, I had the second watershed roundtable co-chair meetings. On the 13th as well, I took part in the Rio Tinto Freshet Snowpack update. On the 19th, we had a presentation to do with the County Cycles pilot project in the New Kaitachik sub-watershed. We had a presentation on the ESI from Brian Toth, which was really quite interesting to see a little bit more light. It's in a little bit, some pieces of it, but it was a bit more of a holistic view, so that was really interesting. And then on the 20th, there was the CONFOR meeting as well. On the 25th, which is today, we started installing purple air monitors. We have 2 of them up and running, and a whole bunch more to install. So that'll be really exciting to get that out and up. And I hope everybody saw the article in the paper. That was a good thing. Last minute addition to get them out there and right on it as well. Try and get some information out.
On April 20th, I was at the community forest meeting as well, and then a housing committee meeting. We had a presentation from Raymond Kwong with the BC Housing Hub, and we invited 2 directors from the Nechako View Seniors Home Society to join us in that meeting, and I think they were interested in following up with Raymond on funding opportunities. On April 22nd, we attended Councillor Jenner's community meeting.
Same on the 20th, we had the agenda meeting in the morning. At noon, the Community Forest Board meeting, CONFOR. On that evening, already the housing hub presentation and the Chaco Valley Collaborative table on the 22nd. And right now, they've basically narrowed down a focus on, well, the full for engagement and trying to find help, a goal for each. We're narrowing some things down after a lot of conversations. So interesting. And then working, I'm not sure if they're working alongside the attraction retention, but allowing attraction retention to take more of the lead. Some of the things they were also working on. So interesting.
I, on April 12th, attended a CAN4 employment update. One of the frustrations that I've had in this is that CAN4 and other people have really struggled at getting a real live person. It just really upsets me. Other communities they've gone to, you think back to Burns Lake, they sent in a whole team for like 2-3 months. So anyways, so we'll know more as time goes on. I've talked to the minister this last about a week and a half ago. I just made a decision in the community. Website get kicked out, and anyways, I sense that that's being addressed. Had a regional district meeting on the 14th. Well, on the 14th, met with Sinclair Forest Products regarding just their going down to 4 days a week. Had a mayor's meeting with Minister Cullen on emergency management and working especially on spring freshet and emergencies in the area. On the 21st, I met with UNBC on their advisory council. I serve on that through the regional district. And there was quite a good group of people there, kind of variety, everything from MLAs to and anyways, one of the areas that I kind of focus in on is the veterinarian program. Everything there takes a long time. Program not having it being able to be done by distance education, and it has taken about 4 or 5 years, everything that you work on. On the 21st as well, met with Northern Health. I think it was the last of the COVID updates. Still, there's a few people in hospital. I think there was 21 in hospital and 2 in ICU. So that's about it. But I think for now, we won't be having meetings and just go from there. On the 23rd, met with the RBA, did a presentation, and did it virtually and with the minister. These were long day meetings. Our CAO was there for the 2 days. A lot of discussion, a lot of negotiation with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. So anyways, we'll see where that goes, but kind of stuck with the presentation that everybody received a week or so ago. We worked on it. I think it worked quite well. I received a number of comments about what we presented, and so I feel pretty good about it. On the 24th, I wasn't able to go on the 23rd, but on the 24th, they had one street left in town that wasn't done on the community cleanup, and it was Stewart Street. And one of the things that I would like to talk about at some point is there's a whole pile of absentee landowners, and just about every place that I had a problem, I spent a lot of time cleaning up. And I want to be real. 10 years ago, I did Stewart Street. Leslie and I had, I think, 7 bags of garbage on Stewart Street. This year, I may have had 1 bag, of garbage. It's huge difference, but I can tell you that everyone was an absentee landowner. And when these people call, to me, they've never been to Vanderhoof. They invested in the property. They bought it on a cash flow basis and stuff like that. And so somehow we need to get back to our business community and say, hey, tell you what, we want to be part of this, but you need to be out there. And we also need to be able to have some way that we can work with our absentee landlords and say, okay, yeah, if you want to sell chicken nuggets or, you know, drinks or whatever you want to sell, you got at least once a day walk around the perimeter of your building, clean up the garbage on it and stuff like that. So that would be my conversation. The last thing I would like to speak about is that I received a letter here just late this afternoon asking if I would be interested in doing a presentation to the budget committee. And I can tell you that the last time that I did, which was about 3 years ago, we got 3 new RCMP members out of it. That was the news reporter for the Citizen, put us on the front page. And the thing is, I got a call. We're going to say, and please don't say anything more. We've got 3 more policemen coming. So I guess to me, it's just want to, you know, at some point have a conversation. If we do want to make a presentation, what would it be on? And I guess to me is the only thing I can really think of that's a provincial mandate would be the primary care facility. But I don't anything else if anybody else can think of anything.
When did you say you're making that presentation?
When could I?
No, when is that presentation going to occur?
Do you remember the
So the submission deadline to be able to present to the Standing Committee on Finance for the provincially is May 6th. So we have a pretty short turnaround time, and the next meeting after this is, I believe, May 9th is a scheduled special meeting. So we don't have a council meeting coming up if there was to be a District of Vanderhoof presentation at this opportunity.
So that's the deadline, but when would you be presenting?
This would be, the presentations would be done in June. There's also opportunities to do a written submission by June 24th, or between May 30th and June 24th, and then the same for completing an online survey as a member of the public.
I just really think, you know, my concern is if we do a written submission, I don't know if it goes anywhere. I don't know if there's another story besides. I don't, we
can pencil that in until something else comes up. In a short time here.
So are you good if we, and if it's only care facility, we'll go with that.
I think you focus on one thing.
Yeah. Okay. So if I could have a motion that we do present. It's on primary care. All in favor? Opposed? Another question for you. You said you had a whole bunch more of these purple air monitors.
We all have locations already.
Yeah.
So
You got 2 lots.
9 left.
9 left. Okay, good. Yeah.
can I throw in something I missed?
Yeah.
On the 21st was the National Indigenous Persons Day planning event. That's going to be scaled back. No Smiling Nose Res kids. Going to be more local-ish acts and things like that. One thing I'd like to put out there for people to think about is, does the DOV want to be involved in that in a flipping burger, community-minded kind of way, right? So that's not an ask right now, but that's putting it in people's heads that that's maybe something we can.
What day is that again, Trevor?
The 21st.
21st.
So it's a weekday.
Okay.
But, unfortunately, I sure wish they had made that the new stat because that would make much more sense because that day is always hard. It's on Tuesday. So anyways, that's.
Yeah. I see a lot of nodding heads as I look around, so the thing is, yeah, so. Okay. Okay, other questions? Okay, March financials.
Mr. Mayor, sorry to interrupt. We have public questions on agenda items.
Okay. We kind of jumped down. I didn't realize we didn't have any. So we have some questions here, which we received earlier today. So what it gets to me is on these items, you want to go through them one at a time? CEO?
So through the mayor to council, if the items get read, or if the questions get read out, then we can kind of address them.
So the questions are regarding the budget, and they're from Mr. Paul Collard. There's no line item for the fencing or associated costs. Is the fencing available from the camp? Does it mean that it's being assigned someplace else? So if so, I see no decision from the council on this. I hope it's not beyond the 5-year horizon. Comment on that?
So through the mayor to council, council has not made a final decision on where this fencing is going. We discussed this, I believe, in the fall time, and there was additional information request from staff. Staff are still gathering that information.
And are there budget amounts for the turnaround of taxi repaving adequate, or are these dependent on grant acquisition?
So those projects are grant dependent on the BC Air Capital Program. The budget amounts are estimates that are current to date. However, going forward, prior to starting any kind of project or reauthorizing the budget for a future fiscal year, those estimates would have to be revisited to ensure their accuracy, as we saw with oil prices increasing significantly and affecting
Lane repairs budget is split in 2 years.
So, on this item, and our director of operations can provide more information at a future date if needed. The first year is focused on the urgent critical repairs to make sure that the lights work when needed. The second year is for quality of life upgrades to the airport light to make sure that these lights remain a viable asset for the mid to long term.
Internal washroom, does this include internal work on it? As it stands, a single toilet only accessible by passing through the whole building where the medical room is located. Would be far better option for the public. It has a large wheelchair accessible door. It could be isolated from the rest of the building. We haven't discussed that either.
So the only discussion that council has had on this is at the March 7th budget meeting, where a resolution was passed to reallocate $64,500 that was intended to build a new washroom to renovate this building as a public washroom. So no further information has been provided to council about what that scope of work could entail.
Once it's done, it'll meet code.
I don't know the answer to that. I'm getting more information from our building inspector as part of that.
Good, thanks. Okay, no other questions? Okay, correspondence, there's none on there. Okay, March financial statements.
So through the mayor to council, the March financial statements are presented for information to you. If there are any questions, our chief financial officer is here to speak to the report.
Any questions? Usually this time of year is pretty early to have questions on the financial statement. Is there anything that jumps out at you, Margaret?
No, usually we pass the financial plan bylaw and then we do taxation and then things start to happen. This is mostly just operations at this point.
Okay, see no questions. Okay, 10.1. There's a recommendation there.
So through the mayor to council, there's a recommendation before you on the arena use policy and bylaw. If there are any questions, our Director of Community Services is here to speak to the report.
This is the same report that we approved at the last committee of the whole meeting.
Correct.
So we want to give first, second, and third reading.
Move to give first, second, and third reading.
I just have one question. I did send out, I received a request from a user group interested in using it in the summer. Is this something that we could amend if needed, if it needs to fit that user group, or if we decide to make it fit that user group?
So through the mayor to council, this is a request for dry floor use in the summertime for pickleball.
Yeah.
So I'll have our Director of Community Services speak to that.
Through mayor to council, I think that's something we can look at as long as the person that is in charge of is trained, so that if there's an emergency, there's a fire alarm that goes off, I can definitely look at that.
Yeah, I think it would be really interesting, and I guess it would intrigue me. I've talked to the CAO a year or so ago on this item. I just would like it if, I know everybody's kind of using that as an example, the people in the community that are so close to us. It would be good to understand, if that would work in our scenario.
Just speaking generally, with that user group, the best thing that they can do is, or any other user group for that matter, is to get in touch with our Director of Community Services and start those conversations.
Happened to be picking garbage when they pulled me in.
Through the mayor council, I just want to clarify the resolution isn't just to read the bylaw for second, third time, but it's also to rescind 3 policies and adopt the new one. The whole recommendation.
The whole recommendation.
You only mentioned the readings of the bylaw. Okay, thank you.
Sorry. That was your motion.
That was my motion.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, there is 10.2. There is a recommendation here. Is anybody wanting to move that recommendation?
I'll move that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Financial plan bylaw.
So through the mayor to council, there's 2 recommendations for you to give first, second, and third reading to bylaws we cannot live without. Our chief financial officer is here to speak to the report if there are any questions for council. But this represents many, many months of work on her part and the part of our senior staff to have a budget run through and approved by council.
Okay, so I guess to me is so the budget is part of the financial plan. So which pages are is the budget part on up to where?
The very first is
So page 6, is that part of the budget? Okay. So I have a question for council. In there, it talks about funding sources, and it says over the next 5 years, the district will increase the proportion of revenue that is received from user fees and charges by the annual CPI over the current levels. And is that a desire of council? I guess to me is do we want to see user fees cover it, or is it a service of the community that we tax for and continue to? Did you want to speak to it? Yeah, go ahead.
We had this discussion, I believe, 2 years ago now, and we read all of the water sewer fees bylaws, and we included this in there in an effort to keep things current for our costs with CPI. So if this changes within this plan, we'd have to rewrite, read all the other bylaws as well.
I don't think we have a choice on water and sewer because that has to be. I guess where I'm concerned about is recreational activities and costs. Because that would be included in this, objective, wouldn't it?
Yes. And our costs do increase for labor and administration and all of that for these functions as well. So we would continue to decline in the amount of revenue we would collect over what we're spending to provide those services.
And to speak further to that, if I may, this objective doesn't bind the district to pursuing 100% cost recovery for all its services and fees. That's kind of assessed on a fee or on a service by service basis. Right now in recreation, we are nowhere close to being anywhere near 100% break even for how much revenue we take in versus spending that goes out. The only piece that this commits council to is increasing our user fees by CPI annually and attempting to increase the proportion of total costs that user fees cover.
A lot of that increases annually.
See, I guess where I struggle on it is where I see communities that do it, which and that's what kind of is the fees for recreation go up so much that nobody goes to it, which and just forces fees even higher. Basically, left with a rate for people into the community. I guess I that's the only thing. But like I say, I don't want to beat a dead horse. If the rest of the council says no, this is where we want to go, I'm good. I just want to make sure this is a substantial. See, I don't have any problem with water and sewer. I think water and sewer has to pay for itself. And I think are we not obligated to do that with water and sewer? So we can subsidize water and sewer?
No, we can't subsidize. We're not obligated to increase them by CPI every year, but we do have to.
Yeah, it's the books on water and sewer. Yeah, okay. So the thing is, yeah, and I just, I guess to me is, I just want to understand by this statement, just say, okay, is this really what we want? Because when you look at that, we have a lot of recreational fields in here and a lot of things around town. I have no trouble raising it by CPI, but, just question. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's something that you monitor as we go here, because if CPI, as it gradually creeps up, if you start seeing, I think it's something that you, on a yearly basis, staff can come back and say, this is where we're at. These are the numbers. And I think all of our organizations that are involved, much like, one in particular came forward this year, so we're struggling to, be organized. They could come forward to us and say, hey, we've seen an increase in our fees. We're struggling to maintain involvement. So I think it's something that as long as we have the ability to go back and amend or change if we see it impacting participation and involvement, I think it's fine, because we did have those conversations around, user pay to a certain extent for some of these issues. So it hurts, when it's coming out of people's pockets, but I think if we can keep an eye on that and make sure, like I said earlier, it's not impacting participation. But 2 years from now, if we go, wow, we're down 20%, we have a problem. And I think we need to be aware of that. Community needs to look at it.
Yeah, and I think it's good to have it as a starting point, right? And the CPI is 7% this year. Well, then maybe that's not, you don't go with CPI, right?
We usually do to a maximum of 2 to 3%. We won't go 10% if CPI is 10%. So we usually keep it around the amount of the cost of labor and how that increases, as that's the bulk of the expenses for these.
The other piece I want to add to that is where we ran into problems in the past, as far as I believe, is when we didn't have increases in certain things and all of a sudden 12 years later, now you have to make a substantial increase. And that's where people really are upset because that's a huge jump to their budget, right? Versus a slow one. So I still think it should be revisited and monitored because it is something that can keep participation up. As long as we're careful.
Okay. I have one other question. On page 7, there's a policy to continue to maintain and encourage economic development initiatives designed to attract more retail commercial businesses to invest in the community. Be pinned down at all, or what's your thought on that?
So with respect to the financial plan bylaw and the distribution tax rates, this objective doesn't meaningfully tie back to how the rates are established. It establishes a overarching goal for the district that we aspire to try and attract more retail investment. So it's, in terms of keeping it in or out of the financial plan, it doesn't add or detract from it with its presence or absence.
I tell you, we as a community charge less than basically anybody for major industrial. And it goes back to my conversation just a bit ago, is absentee landlords. Major industry are not people here. They're looking at a balance sheet. And when you see many of our neighbors that have major industrial in their area, we're at, what was the number, 40 for major industry. What is it per 1,000?
Major industry?
Yeah.
I think it's at 24.
It's higher than that, it's 40.
I have to go to the bylaw.
But anyways, many of
So
our,
our mill rate for major industry,
yeah.
it is 45.87.
So the thing is, many of our counterpart communities are almost double that. When you say the last time I did 10, I did 100 miles north. Maybe not double, but they're substantially more.
I think there's 7.
No, Williams Lake would be 105, I think, aren't they?
They used to be number 1 or 2 at one point, but they are one of the highest, yes.
Yeah. So I think there's a few, that are up there. So anyways, I just, we want businesses here, we want industry here, but this isn't the main thing that keeps those businesses in our community.
Not to be picky, but when you pointed out before, continue to maintain and encourage government initiatives without something to really measure or pinpoint there. Is that a philosophy more than a policy, or is that safe to leave in there? How do you measure that? Like saying we did one thing, that's how we did it, or I just think that's.
So as I noted before, like that statement inside the financial plan doesn't add or detract from the financial plan. It is a philosophical statement.
Okay.
Or an aspirational statement is a more correct way of saying it.
Okay, as long as we're really looking, because it's not really a policy to me, it's just more of a statement, right? So, okay. I know you mentioned that earlier, I just still going, that doesn't seem to fit, but.
Okay. One last one, because I know we went over this. Okay, our taxation for this coming year is almost 5,800,000. Our taxation in 2021 was 5,261,000, was it?
Yes.
Okay. And we were going to do a 3.5% increase, was it?
Yeah, so it's 5.498 this year, and it was 5.26, I believe, last year.
5 point, what did you say?
498.
Okay. On page 5, am I missing some? Like, am I on the wrong page?
That's on page 2 that you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
You're on page 5.
If you're looking at the financial plan as a whole, that's Schedule A, that includes other taxation sources, not just municipal taxation.
Oh, okay, okay, gotcha. Okay,
All our grants in lieu are also included there.
good. Any questions? So is anybody wanting to move the recommendation? Now, do you want these as 2 separate motions? Can we, in the future, if they are 2 separate motions, just kind of separate them on the thing? That way, yeah.
I'll move the financial plan bylaw on 1239.
I'll second that.
Okay, so that's first, second, and third reading.
That's correct.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, then the tax rate bylaw 1240.
I'll move that the district manager tax rate bylaw number 1240, 2022 be given first, second, and third reading.
Second it.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, Vanderhoof Tourism Culture Grand Opening Ceremony.
So through the mayor to council, there's an information only report provided to you to start giving you an idea of like what we're thinking about for the grand opening of the Vanderhoof Tourism and Cultural Center. Our management intern is on the line to speak to the report if there are any questions, along with our director of community services.
I have a question. Does anybody else have one? I have a question to council. Why would we not make this all on July 1st and then have a super good day? You know, we're going to be pushing it. If you read in the report, there's a lot of stuff to be done here in the next. And I guess to me is, if we took all this money and put it into one big party on the 1st, and I guess I haven't talked to you about this, Councilor Young, but you know, I just, you know, don't you think that we could do something extra special at that time?
Yeah, I think so. And as long as staff don't feel that's going to be overwhelming to do some of the other things on that date, I don't think, I like the idea of the focus date. It's not breaking up multiple days that they have to maybe do things. So I don't know what the downside is for staff to try and push it to that. That's another discussion. But yeah.
Through mayor to council, you know what, if that's the way you guys want to go, we can definitely opening so that we have signs along the road and stuff. So if you guys could get back to us sooner than later so we can.
Just so what shape, so that would be July 1st. So I'm just wondering if we would have the grounds in shape that we could be walking around there. We're not, if it's rainy, or are we gonna have muck everywhere? I'm just thinking, are we gonna have turf laid down or something? Are we in a situation? So like, I like the idea, but if we maybe are trying to have a barbecue going on at the same time and the weather goes sideways, is it gonna be a mess? Or are we gonna be safe from that? Because I just trying to plan on.
Through the mayor to council. So yeah, we are having sod laid down and the plan is to make, yeah, we don't want anybody in there with.
No, I didn't think so, but that way we're covered in terms of the weather sprinkled on us a little bit. We're not tracking all that nice particulate into the brand new center. First day would be.
The biggest thing is this would be 3 weeks later if we did it the 1st rather than the 10th. You know, and so that grass would have 3 weeks to kind of
I like that.
lost them a bit, and I guess to me is,
So is it, so if the grand opening is on July 1st, can the facility be used prior to that, or is it?
Or the council, so yeah, it can definitely be used prior to that. For that day, so like I said, that's the direction.
I like the idea. I think it's a great idea.
it wouldn't be an added workload, would it?
It'd actually be easier for staff, to be honest.
Or
Through the mayor and council, I just want to mention, we're inviting a lot of funding partners and dignitaries, and that's a state holiday. I don't know if they'd be able to attend. Representatives from the province and federal government. Just a thought. It's a Friday, July 1st.
I don't know, I just, yeah, I don't know, I just feel that we're pushing so hard to get to the 10th, we're a month and a half away. I don't know, I'm game, like if we can handle 2 parties in a month, yeah, great, but to me is when I see still there's a lot of outside work to do there, that carving is really important. We get that up. I think that's going to have some.
Okay, so for mayor and council, the primary purpose of this discussion paper isn't to pick a day, more so to make sure that you have the benefit of being briefed on what the ideas of staff are for this grand opening and have an opportunity to offer your suggestions, perspectives, and even your ideas or tolerances. Knowing that July 1st is a day that would be tolerable is a good thing for staff because that gives us some added flexibility. That said, we have a lot of partners that we're working with on this grand opening. I don't think we have to worry about setting a specific date, but more so identifying kind of the time frame that we can have this grand opening held, and then work with our funding partners, the donors, Sycas First Nation, and the Nechako Valley Historical Society, among other groups, on when this event can actually take place and make sure that we have maximum participation.
the reason I like the date is because I think we'll have maximum participation in terms of people that day. Will be celebrating July 1st, like we've normally done before in the past on that site, and will be available versus maybe another date. So yeah, so we're not picking the date right now, but I think we can have some investigation into how many of those dignitaries can show, because the big thing for me is to show the citizens of Vanderhoof what's gone into this, and it's to celebrate together. It's, I appreciate inviting the dignitaries. I hope they're all there, but I think it's really important that people. I think that's a great day to have the first step inside for a lot of folks.
I think it would be good though to actually have a schedule out sooner rather than later, and with other groups planning other July 1st activities at different areas of the community.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to try and coordinate that so it's not all at the same time, right?
Good.
Good. So anyways, I just, the report. So in there, you say council received the report, and then on the recommendations, you got council may choose to adopt the recommendation, or number 3 is council could receive this report. Is it the receiving of the report that we want to do today?
So through the mayor to council, this is the traction of using form templates for everything we do. Options 1 and 2.
Sorry about this.
Options 1 and 3 are the exact same.
I've been caught on this tonight already. Move to receive.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Okay. I'd like a motion to adjourn to go in camera. The council will hold an in-camera meeting immediately following the adjournment of the April 25th meeting. The meeting be closed to the public pursuant to the community charter to discuss employee relations, law enforcement, negotiations concerning new municipal service under 91C, F, and K, and further that all persons other than the mayor, councilors, and pertinent staff be excluded from the meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
To the camera and then move to adjourn.
I'll move that.
Whoa.
All in favor?
That's great.